It's good to know this if you're a veteran, but in 2026, we do have some updated rules and regulations for the loans. They raised the loan limit to up over 800,000, and they also did allow for buyers to pay buyers agents commissions because they weren't allowing that before, and that became an issue for people who wanted to be represented by a buyer, but they couldn't pay them. So now they can. As usual, there is no down payment for a VA loan. You can put a down payment down, and actually I suggested if you can do it because it does help overall with other things, but you're not required to. So you can save that money you would have for a down payment and put it on closing costs or some other fees or improvements for the property. Another perk that people have no idea about is VA loans. You're not required to pay the monthly mortgage insurance, which can be hundreds of dollars on top of your loan payment. So you have your principal and interest and your taxes and your insurance, and then you have mortgage insurance. So that can be hundreds of dollars off, like I mentioned, and you don't have to pay that if you get a VA loan either. Another perk is the VA loan interest rate is typically lower than a conventional loan. Now, people like to do conventional if it's a home that has issues because VA might be a little bit more particular. But again, the perk of a VA loan, besides all the previous things I mentioned, is that the interest rate is typically lower. Now on to the updates for 2026. So your funding fee that's required, you can either add it to your loan, or you can pay it at the time of closing, or you can negotiate that to have the seller help you pay that. But either way, it's deductible. So now they're allowing you to be able to deduct that on your taxes if you're paying the funding fee. For the first time you buy a home and you're using that VA funding fee, it's typically 2.15%. However, the more money you put down, like again, you don't have to put money down, but the more money you put down, the lower that number becomes. So it is a perk to put something down again. If you are VA disabled, you do not have to pay that funding fee. I'm not sure if there's a minimum percentage, but for sure check into that because that's a perk. You wouldn't have to pay that. And then the other thing is if you've ever been a Purple Heart recipient, you also do not have to pay that funding fee. A good website for reference is va.org. So if you check out that website, it actually lets you put in all your information and it'll get you what your details specifically would be. Or you can check out a local lender. That's very helpful. Now, the three things you still have to have for an appraisal for a VA loan is the safety, sanitary, and structurally sound. Those three things have always been there and they still need to be. Now, everybody's always scared about peeling paint with VA loans. So if your house that you're looking at is built prior to 1978, they will flag if there's peeling paint, whether there's no peeling paint anywhere but on a windowsill or whatever, they will flag that. But if it was built post or after 1978, the new change this year is that they're not going to flag that. And the biggest change, and I hope I understood this right, correct me if I'm wrong, but the biggest change for the minimum property requirement are that sheds and outbuildings are exempt from those standards that they're requiring. Now, I have personally had a VA loan where there was a barn half a mile out, not even close to the house, and the barn was recently painted, had a new roof, but on the little tiny window that's always at the top of the barns, there was peeling paint on there. And the appraiser flagged it and we had to get it painted before we could close on it. Now this, according to what I'm understanding, is saying that any outbuildings or anything like that are not part of this. Like I again, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of exciting because a lot of times there's buildings that are on the property that probably need to be burned down even or tore down. So again, that could be a safety thing, but let's maybe check into this a little bit deeper, but that's what I was understanding. Again, if you are looking at properties and you want to use your VA loan and your VA benefits, just get a hold of me. First off, I can help you. I'm knowledgeable in what's required for VA loans, and I can connect you to a lender, a local lender that will absolutely know their stuff and take care of you. And I promise it will be as smooth as we can make it for you.